job interview is one of the most anxiety-provoking situations most people can find themselves in, even when they go to plan. But what happens when you have your worst interview ever? Our guests share their worst interviews ever in the hope that you will take something from their mistakes to have a more successful interview outcome. Some of the stories are horrific and some are just downright embarrassing. Let's join our host, Kevin O'Reilly, the interview skills coach with over 25 years experience in the fields of coaching and recruitment. Let's welcome our guests to the show.
Today we have on the show Lynne Bloomfield, the co-founder of Brandwise Talents, whose focus on tackling critical business challenges including employer branding and e-learning. Lynne has over 3 decades of experience in sales, recruitment, mentoring and marketing. Her passion for excellence is demonstrated by the multiple individual and organizational awards she has won, such as Salesperson of the Year and a Yale Gold Award for Business. Lynne, you're very, very welcome today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to working with you today.
That's great, thank you. And where do we find you today then?
Well, today I'm at home. I'm working from home today and a few days this week as well. And it's nice to say that the sun is out.
Well, that's a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
That's an absolute rarity.
It is. But
I think we live in the same town or city, isn't that correct?
in Hollywood, probably do, yeah.
Yeah. Not too far away. I'm in Bangor. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm in Bangor. Well, I don't think the sun has quite reached us yet.
Well, we'll hold on to it here for a wee while more.
That's brilliant. Lynne, I'm really excited about today because when I was reading through your bio and your profile, there's so much experience that you have that the listeners will gain so much from.
Well, it shows me age, I suppose, but yes, I've been working since I was 18, so I've a long history of working in sales, marketing, interviewing on both sides. So hopefully I can share some insights that hopefully will be of help to someone, no matter what side of the desk that they're actually sitting on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people forget that, isn't it? That it is about both sides of the interview table. It's not just about
absolutely.
one side.
Yeah, and I think that is key because sitting on the interview panel can sometimes be as daunting because you do want to try and get the best out of the candidate, but you still have to be fair and do it in a fair process.
Yeah, it is. As I say to most of my clients, the whole process is unfair, but it's unfair for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah, because everybody wants the same result at the end of the day. The employee wants to be in the right role that they can stay in, and the employer wants the right candidate so that it's a right fit for the job, for the team culture that's there. But sometimes that you are restricted by the way you have to do the interview process, that it can be quite difficult to do that. So hopefully by having the podcast that you're doing, it will make it easier for people to do that going forward.
Well, that's it, isn't it? This is about awareness. This podcast is about helping even just one individual, whether that be an organization or a candidate going for an interview, just giving them everybody a bit of an insight into what goes through a candidate or an interviewer's mind.
Yeah.
And that's why we have so many different individuals on this podcast, from candidates through to business owners and HR professionals who do lots and lots of interviewing.
Yeah.
So it is nice to have someone like yourself who has done that as well. You know, you've been that interviewer, you've been that candidate, and now you're a business owner.
Absolutely. The reason that we looked at Brandwise was because we saw the gap in the middle. We've seen so many times where the gap is where the candidate goes for the role that they think is the role, but in actual fact, whenever they start the job, it's maybe not exactly what they thought it was going to be. So that is maybe because the company hasn't portrayed the company culture, the company job to be exactly what it is. So where we saw the gap was where we could maybe work with employers, work with businesses to help them promote that company culture right through to their induction training to look, okay, well, look, now you've use your current employees to tell what the company's like, use your employer branding, tell us what your value proposition is if someone comes to work here. And then, whenever you do get a candidate applying for roles, they know exactly what kind of an organization they're coming into, and they can prepare for that. And they'll be excited about coming to work for your company because they can see it on your socials, and they can see your current employees advocating for the jobs that they're in and loving it. Or some companies do it really well. So whenever they come in, we even, make sure that your induction training also matches that, so that they are well trained into the role, so that they will stay, longer than 6 months or longer than 6 days in some cases a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes
There-
6
There's
hours.
there's a lot of money in recruitment, but there's
Absolutely.
also a lot of money in the wrong recruitment.
Absolutely, more so. I've known people who have spent a couple of £1,000 and the person has left within a week and said, oh, I was just taking this job until I got another one. I was just waiting to hear about another one. And that's not helpful. They've spent so much on recruitment agencies and then training the staff, and never mind the cost of their own employees taking time out of work to
That's it.
interview and train.
It's that hidden cost, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't really, a lot of organizations don't really add that into the cost of a new employee.
No.
And I think the last record for recruitment of just one single employee of a £25,000 a year job was £30,000.
Yeah.
And that was through training, that was through recruitment, that was job adverts, agencies if they're used. So it's £30,000.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
includes the upfront costs and the hidden costs. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
So
if you haven't portrayed that as in an organization, if you haven't portrayed all of what you want in the right way, then you're
yeah,
not really doing that. You're not really getting the right pool of candidates. And I've come up against a lot of organizations currently who've said there's not that many good people out there. And then I look at what they do and I say, it's because you're fishing in the wrong pond.
absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
not, you don't have the right bait.
Yeah. And exactly. And that's exactly it. You're looking in the wrong places and you're not portraying your role and your organization correctly as it should be. Mhm.
You're absolutely right. And it's more so if they had organizations like your own, Brandwise, they would be able to understand exactly what it is they're looking for. Because what I have tended to find is that they have always did what they've always done.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the landscape has changed.
It
So
has.
they
It has.
haven't changed or adopted. They're not
That's-
flexible.
Yeah. And candidates, we talk about there's not enough of a pool of candidates. It's ever since we've had lockdown, we've had lots of changes, and a lot of times the candidates are more in control of what they want. And some people they want more flexibility, they want more company culture. It's different rewards that they're asking for, and it's about looking at what you can offer and how you can what reasonably you can offer, and you can show that package on a job description, as opposed to sticking to the same thing every time, which is your salary, your pension, it's how you can jazz that up a bit to reflect.
Absolutely. Because if your values align with the company's values, you're more likely to be chosen initially and you're more likely to stay, which is the retention part
Absolutely.
of it.
Yeah.
So getting the right person in the right place at the right time, what's not to like about that?
Mhm. Plus, you can attract candidates who are maybe thinking of moving from another job if you portray your company as a really fabulous place to work. Funny, I was just reading an article this morning about intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Obviously, extrinsic being that, oh, we'll take you out for a meal, or we'll, those kind of rewards, but the intrinsic ones are more about the culture. And
Yeah.
apparently candidates will stay longer and will want to work in an organisation that can offer the intrinsic ones. So it's how to then get those across.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And it's the training. I think
Yeah.
those Gen X's are
Absolutely. It is.
they're more in tune now with what they want. So they're
They are.
actually staying longer because of
Yes.
training.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we then looked at how we can then add value to, which has kind of progressed on from there, induction training. We've been developing online induction packages which can also then be of value to current employees. So it can add extra training for where they need it, whether it just be the normal induction training or to progress on current employees as well, and doing it online so they can tap into it whenever they need, whenever they want, and it can be done as group sessions or one-to-one sessions as well at their own time.
And that's great, because there's so many different people who learn differently, and
Yeah,
you having that online,
yeah,
that's one modem of delivery. Having it on a page is a different one. Having it heard is a different one, and you're trying to combine
definitely,
all of those.
definitely. And then it can be very interactive as well,
Yeah,
and you can incorporate in the assessment method with it as well.
that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And we're going to get a little bit more into what you're doing and how you're doing it shortly. But before we get stuck in, I do this with all my guests, Lynn, by the way. So,
Yeah.
do you have a hobby or a hidden skill or talent that not very many people know about you?
Well, I suppose let's keep it current. I have just recently started, and it was actually inspired by in the last couple of years we did do a workshop in Kilkenny Women's Centre from a guy who was working with us, Evan, silversmithing. So since I did that workshop or watched him do it, actually, I have started doing silversmithing workshops, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's something I think I would like to keep up. Who knows, I might move on to gold, but I've started making some silver jewelry, which I really enjoy, and I would like to keep on. So I don't think too many people would know that I'm doing that at the moment.
Oh, very good, Lynn. Very, very good indeed.
Not
So
that I
you're
have
making
much
your own
time for
styles.
hobbies. Mm?
So you're making your own sort of styles and what suits
Yeah,
you, and
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and that
So
could branch out.
it could definitely, and it's something that if I, whenever, hopefully if the business takes off and I do get more time, I would love to take some time and make my own little range of jewelry. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sounds fantastic.
Mm.
Well, keep us informed about that, Lynn.
I will, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then, has there been a time within your journey here so far that you've thought, "Do you know what, this is an absolute highlight of my career"? Has there been one specific time when you can think of that you could share with us?
Highlight. I've had I've always worked, so I've never really had too much time out. So I suppose my career has been quite steady and going along. So I suppose the highlight would have to be with taking the plunge to start my own business. And that's what I'm doing now. So I probably would talk about that now. In the last year, I've always I always joked whenever I was younger and said, look, I'm gonna go part-time when I'm 45 and I'm gonna retire when I'm 50. I hit that milestone last year. And then I thought, right, okay, it's either make or break. I'm gonna have to, do something about it now or I never will. So that was why I kind of took the plunge and thought I met Andrew, who's my business partner, and we kind of looked at both. He has different skill sets to me, but we both seem to our skill sets matched in the in Brandwise and what we're doing. So we just took the plunge and thought we would start the business of Brandwise, and is probably the highlight at the moment of the career. Yeah,
Well, congratulations, Lynn. That's a big, big step.
it is. Yeah, but scary, but exciting at the same time.
Yeah, I think as entrepreneurs, we need to have almost that equal amount sometimes, but then again, we need a little bit more of one thing than the other,
Yeah, definitely.
or we become a little bit complacent.
We do. It is. It's easy to take the easy road. But yeah, sometimes you just have to push the boundary as such and just do it and see how it goes. So here I am.
Well, that's it, isn't it, Lynn? And as I say,
Yeah,
congratulations. It's a huge step, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to be doing, and potentially working with you in the future, with you and Andrew.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Because
think
I
there's
think what
always, with businesses in Northern Ireland, I think there's always add value that can be added working together for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a crossover of what we can help each other and support each other with. So that's
Absolutely.
wonderful. That's
Mhm.
great. Lynn, for the sake of balance now, okay, we've talked about your high point. Has there
Yeah.
been a point in your career where you thought, okay, this is a pivotal moment, or a low point that,
Yeah.
I need to learn something from this and I need to change something or move on?
Well, I think that's probably an easier one to answer. Whenever, as I said, I've always worked and I've always been really strived for to be better in wherever I've worked, and I've always achieved for success. And at one point in my life, I worked for Yale, so it was quite a stressful job, really rewarding job, loved the role. But the low point that I hit there was at the age of 32, I was diagnosed with cancer. So that was sort of the pivotal, I suppose, the point where you kind of stop and, well, you have to stop and you have to think about, okay, where do I go from here? Because you really don't know what's kind of is going to happen in the next sort of the next 6 months, the next year, whatever. So I then looked at, okay, well, do I really want to go back to that role? Which at that time, we were spending months going across to Scotland to work as well. And our office was in Glasgow. So I think that was where I did make the change. And I decided, no, I think I will use this as an opportunity to change career. So I went and I volunteered with Kilcooley Women's Centre for a year. And I ended up being employed with them. And I thought, right, well, this is really nice working with the community. I worked with their exams and marketing. And I thought, right, I'll do this for a couple of years. 18 years later, I watched the company grow. And then I moved on to work with Gifted, which is also an arm of the charity as well. So I think that was a pivotal change where I did have to sit back and reflect. It was a low point. You need to make a change. But I suppose the message is, you know, everyone somewhere in their career and their lives will hit a low point, and they have to sort of think about where they go next, and you can come back out of it no matter what, and you can start from the ground zero and work your way back out again. So that was it. And it all worked out.
Lynne, firstly, thank you very much for sharing that very personal story.
No
I
problem.
know I appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate your complete openness and your complete vulnerability there. It is not easy to share that, and I just want to acknowledge that because that's a huge thing for you, and you have come on so far, so far. 18 years later, started your own business, still working part-time within the Kilcooley sort of family,
Absolutely.
you know, and you give back every single day. It's absolutely amazing, man. Amazing, man. Thank you very much.
There are many others as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing that story. Now, I would suspect that there's something that drives you. And I would suspect there's something that drives everybody. But those sort of things might be that you're a hard worker or you just want to do your very best. But there is values. You know, I've known you for some time and you have values. I can see your values, you demonstrate your values, and you behave according to your values.
Yeah.
Now, what one value do you have that you think every candidate should have when they come in to speak to you?
Well, my values are always be true to yourself, and always is the first thing. And I always value and would be results driven, as opposed to it's about whatever you set out to do, you want to achieve. So if you reflect that into a candidate going to an interview, it's about authenticity. It's about being themselves. So if you're going for a role, for a job, you're obviously passionate or you want to work in the organization that you're going for. So yes, you will need to do all the research you can about the role that you're going for so that you make the best of that interview. But the key thing that you should take with you is your true self, so that that comes across to the interviewer. As someone who's interviewing, whenever you're interviewing, you want to see the personality of the person that you're interviewing, so that if you hire that person, the person that turns up to work on day one is the person that you actually interviewed. It's not someone who was kind of, for want of a better word, acting the role that they thought you wanted to be in order to get the job. So that would be the key thing I would say to someone going for an interview, is to be themselves in the interview. Whilst yes, they still need to be in control and know everything they need to know about the job description, and I suppose coming into your role, Kevin, about the interview skills. They need to learn all of that because that is all their research, but they need to bring themselves to the interview first and foremost. That comes through.
I think that's very, very true, isn't it? And I think it's almost a life lesson, never mind an interview lesson, or a
Yeah,
candidate lesson about trying to be your authentic self and
yeah,
showing up as your true authentic self is very, very difficult for lots and lots of people. I know it took me a very long time, many, many years to truly be who I am and be okay with that.
yeah,
And that's a difficult thing to do, and it's very difficult for people who are setting out on their career at the very beginning, trying to understand the lay of the land as such. And they'll read things and they'll see things and they'll hear things around how you should prepare and what you should say and who you should be if you want to work for this company.
yeah,
What I've tended to find is, and it's again touching on the conversation around values, is that if you if your values align with your organizations or the organization that you're going for, it's much easier for them to say yes to you and for you to say yes to them.
yeah. Absolutely, it is. And I know that we all are different personalities, and obviously different roles will, going for an accountant's role be very different from going for a sales role, because there'll be different personalities hypothetically involved. But that's fine. Everybody will have different personalities to take to the role, but make sure that you do take your own with you as well.
Yeah, it's not an easy ask of anybody.
It's not. It definitely isn't, but that would be my advice,
Yeah,
definitely to do that.
yeah. I wish more people would do that. I wish they would
How can
because
we
it would
help them
make
do
your
it?
job. Yeah,
How
go
can
ahead then.
we come?
Go ahead, Bobby. Saying.
How can we help them do it then, Kevin? Because it is true.
Oh,
Whenever you're on the interview panel,
yeah,
to see someone who's you just know that they're nearly learning a script, or they're not themselves. It's
yeah. And it's unfortunately it's around those very structured interviews that becomes even more of an issue, that they
yeah,
have to learn certain things to do them a certain way to gain certain points so they can get the job. Yes, you can still have your authentic person on show there, but you still have to understand what it is that organization is looking for so that they can tick those boxes. And
yeah.
sometimes that's not just about scripting, it's about rehearsing, it's about being adaptable, that if the question doesn't turn up that you're expecting, that you can at least adapt. And you can only do that if you're relaxed, and you can only do that if you're being true to yourself and authentic.
You can, and I suppose it's about what you're saying about the script. If it changes, it's to think about the role and have examples in your past that you can use that can be adapted to every situation.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Role.
But it's sometimes having that confidence which a lot of people do lack, and
Mhm.
it's the understanding of confidence and it's the understanding of preparation and how those two come together to create even more confidence.
Yeah,
And it is difficult for people setting out, and I have seen that with regards to my own clients. I have hundreds and hundreds of clients, single clients, one-to-one clients that come to me every year, and they lack that understanding of who they are.
yeah.
They don't know what their values are.
Across, yeah, yeah. So it's like, maybe questioning them and finding that out first, but not everyone gets that opportunity to do that. They're just going for, the interviews.
And that's it, isn't it? And it's
Mhm.
back to something you said earlier on about understanding the mission, the vision, the values of an organization.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense because then you can look to see if that is aligned with your own.
Well, yes, because you wouldn't go for a job if you looked at their company culture or you looked at their Facebook page and it wasn't. If you looked at what their employees were like and you thought, you know what, that's not who I want to be, you maybe wouldn't even go for the job. But if you look at the role, you look at their socials, you look at their website and think, I want to work there and know that that's me, that's how I'll fit in there.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense because then you've got someone that wants to be there and an organization that wants you to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a win-win.
It is. And they're going to stay. They're going to be trained and they're going to stay. And absolutely, both the company wins and you win as the employee.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I tend to find as well is that sometimes there's those almost nuggets of candidates that are just absolutely amazing because they want to be there. And that can be a real difference between two candidates who are almost identical in every way with regards to experiences, skills, talents, even answering the questions. But if there's one for me that really, really, really wants to be there and is willing to do that little bit extra because they want to be there.
Yeah.
That's the type of person that I would want working for me. Someone that has that sort of attitude. Now, I'm sure you've came up against a few of those moments yourself where you've had two candidates that are almost identical.
We have.
How
It,
have you chosen?
it always happens. It does happen, which is great because it means you've got two brilliant candidates. We always, well, whenever we're interviewing, we always interview where there's at least two people interviewing, sometimes three. So we would then have a discussion, and there's always a lot of note taking. So we would always have a discussion, and you would always find that someone's maybe taken a wee note down, and as you say, they've recorded the nugget, but she said this or she said that. And that's the only way you can differentiate. And sometimes, yes, it does come down to the attitude and how they've said it, or something that they've said that's negative as well. But it is all down, as you say, and it does come down to points, and it could just be 1 point then in it that does it.
Mm-hmm. I suppose that attitude is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like you
Extra
can
as
feel,
well that you
yeah,
can bring. Mhm.
yeah, but you can feel it.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, there's a great saying that people don't always remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel.
they do, yeah. But I suppose as well, we always have to be very careful as well, because how do you score that? Because, we talked about, earlier on about you still have to score in the interview. So it does come down to that as well. You've got to, but yes, that can be the
Well,
difference in how
well,
this thing.
what we have found is that people who make interviewers feel,
Yes.
the interviewers are usually more likely to be more lenient with their marking.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that they are being unfair to anybody else. It is just human nature. You
it is.
then want even more for that person, and your unconscious bias is slightly removed. That's what we have tended to find.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've sat obviously on both sides of the interview table. You've been the interviewer asking questions, and you've also been the interviewee
I
receiving
have.
those questions and answering. Yeah.
I have, yeah.
As the interviewer sitting on that other side of the table looking across at a candidate, has there ever been a candidate that has asked you a question you've thought, oh, that's a good one. I really like that. I really like that question. Or has there ever been a time where they've asked you a question, you've went, oh my goodness, I really don't like that?
Yeah, there's been a few questions. A couple have been included. We've had questions about the people where they've kind of knocked their they've had lack of preparation. So they've nearly been asking questions about the organization, which they should have known. So it's been a bit of, do they really know what job they're actually here for? And
Mm.
you actually, when they start doing a bit prober, it actually turned out that they thought they were there for a different role.
Oh.
So that was a wee bit, oh, right, okay, that's not too good. And
Mhm.
then we do have the questions that I like to hear were the ones that we've had people who have asked, okay, well, like, what if I get into this role, where could I be in a year's time? In other words, they're asking for progression. So that's someone probing to us, okay, I'm here for the long run. I want to come and work for you, and I want to come and stay. So that's sort of the two sides of it.
And do you think it's important that they ask a question at the end, as in a candidate asks the interviewers a question at the end? Or do you think it doesn't really matter?
I think I would rather them ask a valid question than ask a stupid question. So if they really can't think of a question, I don't ask it, because if they ask a stupid question, that's what's going to be stuck in the interviewers. That's what they're going to remember. Thinking of a really crazy one that was asked at the end. Someone asked us, can I use my sick leave as my holidays? Their question at the end. So
Well, do you
let's
know what?
that one.
This moves us nicely on to our next sort of question about
Yeah.
red flags. And do you know
Okay.
what? I'm going to take that one as one of your red flags, because that
Yeah,
would be a
it
red
was.
flag to me as well. You
Yeah,
know,
that was a question. Yeah.
asking about holidays and sorry, asking about sickness can be taken as holidays.
Yeah. We've had that one. And we've also had another red flag was someone who actually started slagging off a competitor in an interview. So, that's not professional. There are ways to, I suppose it comes back even when you're selling something, you never talk down another business ever, no matter how bad they are, you never do that. So that's a red flag. Lack of preparation. So someone, I suppose comes back to the example I used a wee minute ago, where someone it was just looked like they just saw the job, that applied for it, didn't think they were going to get an interview, got an interview and came, and actually they didn't even know the role that they were applying for.
Yeah.
So they came maybe for an admin role, but actually it was a project officer's role or something like that.
It's a terrible waste of time, isn't it, for everybody involved, and terrible waste of money for everybody
It
involved.
is, absolutely.
What I always tend to find with situations like that is on their CV, more than likely they've put attention to detail.
Yeah.
Which is clearly not true.
It is, and that's where we had moved then to application forms, so they have to actually answer questions, not
Excellent. And
CVs.
that's a really good suggestion, actually, is to go towards application forms, because you can ask the questions that you want answered.
Yeah.
It's up to them then to make the effort to do that.
And much more competency-based questions as well, scenario-based as well. So
yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, those red flags are yeah. I would suggest not to do those either, especially that one about talking down about other businesses, because I'm a great believer in, if they will do that with you, they will do that against you.
absolutely. And it's not nice. And the other business might have just had a bad, you don't even know what the situation was. It might not be true either. So,
well, this is it, isn't it? This is absolutely correct. It may not be true. It may be that they're trying to make themselves look better than what they are, as in the candidate. And you're right, it should never ever be done. It's just not the place to do it.
yeah.
I'm a great believer in it shouldn't be done in at all. But interviewing is definitely not the place to air your dirty laundry as such.
Definitely not.
No. Okay. So has there ever been a time when a candidate has really went above and beyond when interviewing? Now, we've had people on here mention around, they've went that extra mile and prepared questions, specific questions around a new venture that is maybe happening within an organization. So they've had to do a lot of research around that. They've prepared something like they've brought a gift that is in relation to the organization and what it stands for, or their mission and vision or values. Is there anything like that has really stood out for you as an interviewer?
I think, I suppose, yes, we've had, over the years, I remember a project officer that we had in who did come in, who'd obviously done our homework and had come in with some really, really fantastic ideas during the interview of what they could do in a project, for that particular project that was being applied for, which was over and above the questions. So where we would maybe have been asking for scenario based, she was able to actually answer in relation to that actual project, which would have been alien to most people. So the research she must have done to be able to find that out would have been well over and above. So that was really impressive. So that was good. We have had one who brought buns as well, but see, that doesn't work with me. So yeah.
So listeners, just take
I
note.
want take
Buns
note.
don't work.
Yeah, although I do like buns, but I would rather know you're going to do a good job for me.
Yeah, a bun is instant. A good job is lasting, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have the
Yeah,
last.
listeners take note. Yeah.
Most definitely. Okay, now we're going to change pace ever so slightly, Lynn.
Okay.
So this is the part of this process, this interview, this podcast, that we go to a quick fire round.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a series of questions where
Yeah.
the answer is either yes, no, or pass.
Or pass. Okay.
Okay, because there is some questions that you'll maybe want to pass on, and there's some that you'll go, yeah, okay, I'm not sure. So is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay, so here we go. Is it acceptable to wear pajama bottoms to a Zoom interview?
Yes.
Is it okay to bribe the interviewers?
No.
Is it wise to ask the interviewer for a selfie together at the end?
No.
Should a candidate smile during an interview?
Yes.
Should you answer the first question with a dramatic pause for effect?
Dramatic pause, as you can see. No, you should use your pauses when you need them.
Should women wear high heels to an interview?
I can't answer that with a yes or a no.
So is that a pass?
Oh, that's a pass, but they can if I want.
Is it acceptable to ask the interviewer how much they make?
No,
Should you high five the interviewer at the end?
no. I
Should a
have had
can-
that actually.
should a candidate swear during an interview?
No,
Is it acceptable to bring your mum to the interview for moral support?
no.
Okay, Lynn, that's us.
That's it.
That's it. How was that?
That was very easy. Thought they were
That
going to
was.
be difficult.
Yeah. There's a few weird, wonderful questions in there. And the reason that we ask these questions is because these are the questions that I have been asked by candidates in the past when I have been coaching.
Okay.
Okay.
And what were your
And
answers?
what was my answers?
Yeah.
It depends on the question, of course, and it depends on the person. There's a lot of different depends. So
Fair enough.
sectors, industries, person, it just depends. But most of the time, if I'm answering any of those questions, again, it depends. You know, someone brought you buns, but could a bribe be that they will work really, really hard, non-stop, give you 110%? Could that not be classed as a bribe? Maybe not a monetary bribe or something
The
that you
bun
get
bribe.
tangible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still.
Okay.
Which way buns don't work with me.
Lynn, I'll remember that. I'll remember. Buns don't work for Lynn. Okay. And even if
Only in an interview stage, any other time's fine.
even in a the other question is the acceptable to bring your mum. Well, I've had other guests on here that say yes, it is absolutely, as long as they sit in the car, as long as they're not in the interview with you.
Yeah, well, that's a different question.
I suppose it is. You're absolutely right. I suppose it
Yeah.
is. But it is strange what goes through people's heads. And it's
Yeah.
always nice to peer inside that for just a little moment, just to see.
By the way, I'm not wearing my pajama bottoms.
Good. That's good to know. Okay, Lynn, thank you for doing that. Now,
Thank you very much, Kevin, for having me.
no problem. Now we've come to the stage where we're going to ask the question that we're really here for, and it's
Okay.
about your worst job interview ever. So, Lynn, I'm going to pass this over to you. Tell our listeners what your worst job interview ever was.
Well, I think that it will come as no surprise that it's about the authenticity, because that's for two reasons why I'm so passionate about it. One is because sitting in the interview panel, but one is because it happened to me. In one of my first interviews, whenever I was younger, I remember getting all excited about getting an interview. And I didn't have very much experience in interviews, and I did my research on the company, but then I wore these clothes that were not me. I got my hair done that wasn't really me, because I thought that's what the interviewers wanted to see. And I got myself all dressed up for this interview, and I really didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like me, and I know that I wouldn't have came across like me, and I didn't get the job. And that's what I put it down to. And ever since that moment, I kind of came out of the interview, thought, because I'm normally quite a person that when I want something, I really want to get it. And I have been ever since. And that's what I changed. I thought, that's it. I'm going to be me from now on. Will do my research, but I'll find a happy medium over coming across as who I am, as well as what the company is like. And I really didn't enjoy that interview. I felt so uncomfortable. I probably couldn't even tell you what the questions were because I was just so fixated on being uncomfortable in the interview.
And I suppose that makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Being able to walk in there and feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
I just don't mean feeling comfortable in your own skin, but I mean feel comfortable in your own clothes and in
Yes.
your identity.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a whole big topic in itself, especially now as things have changed. So yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely has changed. COVID has changed quite a lot of things, and how people dress is definitely one that has changed. Although the opinions of the interviewers haven't changed in line with that, from what I can see.
Yes, I think there's a happy medium. I think there is a happy medium and always has to be. I mean, whenever I started work, women were I had to wear skirts, at work. And that changed during my time in that particular job. And I remember it was like flags were out because we could then wear trouser suits. But yeah, it's things are still changing.
Yeah.
And as employers, we do need to and employees, we do need to recognize that we do need to recognize authentic people. You know, we're employing them for what they can do in the role, not for how they look in the role, to a degree, because they still need to look, depending on what the role is, professional
Yeah.
and reflect the company. So they're, you know, what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah. I worked for an organization then many years ago that women had to have clear nail varnish.
Mhm.
They had to wear skirts. Their hair had to be tied back,
Mhm.
or they were sent home. And guys were not allowed stubble.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
yes, it was definitely customer focused and customer facing. However, that was a very old fashioned way of thinking
yeah,
and being as an organization.
yeah. And there has to be a medium. I mean, funny, we were doing like, talking about a beauty therapist the other day, and whenever you're doing massage, you have to have clear nail polish and short nails, which is fine. There's a reason for that, but
Hmm.
you know, there is so much changes now. We have to, as employers, adopt that and
Yeah,
recognize it.
I think you're absolutely right. As employers, we have to move with the times.
Mhm.
We can't get stuck doing the same thing we've always did, because if we
Mhm.
did, we'll always get the same result.
We will.
And because the landscape is changing, work is changing, people are changing, as
Mhm.
business owners, we have to adapt to that.
Yeah,
We have to keep moving and we have to keep being flexible. Because if we're too rigid, we're really siloing ourselves into an area where we're cutting down our customer base and making it
yeah,
really difficult.
and we'll not get the results that we need. So
And that's it. And I think you've said it quite a few times, you're quite results driven. And what
yeah,
I take from what you said is you are not going to say, I'm going to do something unless you're going to do that. And you
yeah,
put those wheels in motion and you work towards doing that. So that must be
absolutely.
very exciting for you as a business owner, being able to not just write it down on a page, but actually see and know that you're going to achieve what you've set out to do.
Yeah. One of my famous lines, according to my husband, is, or that I keep saying to him, is, stop talking about it and start doing it.
Your poor
Yeah,
husband.
it is. But yeah, it is. It's true. We can spend a lot of time writing and planning and talking, but we have to be doing, and it's the same in every aspect and everything we've talked about in the interview. Mhm.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be said about knowing what to do and doing.
Mhm.
There's a lot to be said. It is good that you know what to do, but if you don't take any action upon that, then what's the purpose? What's the point of you having that knowledge? What is the whole reason behind gaining knowledge? Well, it's to put it into action. It's to do something with it. It's not to hold on to it and just sit and admire that you're the smartest person in the room, but not the smartest person in the room that won't do anything with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It can change, and as we know, everything you do, you reflect and you look how it's going, and the way you go might change direction, but that's fine. It's absolutely
Well,
fine.
that's it, isn't it? But you have to take that chance,
Mhm. You
or
do.
even um, an educated guess to
Mhm.
being successful.
Yeah,
And I think as entrepreneurs, we all do that. We all plan, but
you do.
we don't
Absolutely.
realize,
Yeah, you do.
but we realize that sometimes these plans don't go to plan, and it's how
Yeah,
we
a lot
react to
of the
those.
time. Yeah. Well, that's it. It is. It's how you react to them.
Yeah. Len, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation, and I just want to summarize some of the points, the main points that I feel that we and our listeners could gain from this, because there's been so much gold in this interview that I think will do any of our listeners, all of our listeners, some great benefit to hear. So my three takeaways from today are: never ever ever talk down about a competitor, about a previous employer, or about someone
Mhm.
during the interview, because for me personally, it's if they're going to do that with you, they're going to do that against you. That's how my mind works, and it has not proven me wrong since.
Mhm.
It has not proven me wrong since, because you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but if they're going to talk bad about a previous employer, well, potentially you're going to be that previous employer at some stage and they will talk bad about you. That
Yeah.
is just a trait or a behavioral trait that they have. And as an employer in a business, it's not a trait that I would like in my own organization of business.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely not.
no. And attitude, so important, especially for that interview. The attitude can be the difference between getting the job and not getting the job. If you're down to the final two candidates, both exactly the same in almost every possible way, that attitude during the interview, that really pushing yourself, that even asking, what do I need to do to work here? What is it I need to do to work here? As a final statement, as opposed to a question for the candidate or for the employer, that could be the difference, because that shows a little bit of enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's the extra bit you can give.
Yeah, skills can be taught. That attitude is much more difficult to train into someone.
It
It's not.
is.
I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying it's another layer, or two or three layers, that potentially could slow down the whole process. And the best one for me is the be authentic, be your authentic self. That seems to be coming through from when you were 18 and you
Yeah.
had that experience and you reflected. Now, I wish all 18-year-olds could reflect like you did then and understand that you have to be that authentic self. It took me a lot longer than 18. I don't want to even tell you how long it took me. It took me a long time to become my authentic self and be happy with the person I am, warts and all, and not care what anybody else thought.
Mhm.
That is an achievement in itself, if nothing else, Lynn. And if even just one person, one listener could do that, that would change not only their way they interview, but that would change their life.
It does. You'll get people who don't like you, but that's fine. Perhaps.
That's all right. You can't.
Can't please everybody.
No, you can't. And you don't like everybody, and I don't like everybody. But that's
I do
okay.
not like anybody, but that's true.
Yeah, but that's okay. Do you know what I mean? That's okay. It's fine. It's. I think it's when it gets to the stage where you're craving somebody else's opinions on things. I think then you must look inside and have a think. Am I being my true self?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do I need to change to be the right person
I
for that
want.
person? Yeah. And I think that's where you have to be very introspective and look inside and think, do I really even want to work here if I have to change so much? Now, let's look at the other side of that coin. Potentially, you might want to improve. Now, if that is okay,
Which is
improvement is
different.
okay,
Yeah.
growth, yeah. But changing, I don't, changing is a very vague word. Okay. But improving and growing to becoming someone that wants to be in that organization, I'm okay with that. Absolutely. But that is who you are. That's your authentic self. That's either you're a lifelong learner or you're someone of growth, someone of personal development that wants to go into those areas. And I think that's fantastic.
Okay.
Lynn, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your time today. And I know our listeners will have taken so much from it today. So where can our listeners find you on socials or websites or?
Yeah, probably the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I think there's a summary of just about everything on me on that. If I can help you with anything to do with what we spoke about today on about Brandwise and brand and employers, and even the e-learning end of things as well, or even gifted, obviously with the co-working as well. So yeah, find me on socials is the best, probably on LinkedIn. But thank
And
you.
is that at Lynne Bloomfield?
It is, yes.
That's perfect. Thank you very
LinkedIn.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for having me, and look forward to chatting to you again.
For more details about our guest, or if you would like to be a guest, go to www.interviewskillscoach.co.uk/my-worst-interview-ever, or find us on Facebook or LinkedIn. And remember, on the other side of a successful interview is the life you deserve.